Hi, everyone. Welcome. My name is Melissa O'Kane. I'm a director of product management and founder of the Women in Product group here at Salesforce. Welcome to today's conversation. I'm so excited we get the opportunity to talk about this topic in particular. And I'm even more delighted that you've chosen to join us today for our guest speaker, who I'll introduce in just a second. But first, let's talk about our exciting topic and what we'll be discussing today. We're really here to unpack what success from anywhere means specifically for women in product, this phase of time when work is changing so dramatically. How is that looking for us? And as you know, we're all here for this amazing opportunity to come together as dynamic women in this growing and exciting field to connect and engage just like we're doing here, to really learn and understand from each other how we can successfully thrive in our careers in products at all levels. So, no further ado, I'd love to introduce you to our fantastic guest speaker and one of my absolute favorite humans. I'm so grateful to get to work with her here at Salesforce, Taksina Eammano. So, Taksina, tell us a bit about yourself and your background.
Thanks, Melissa. And everybody does call me Tax. So I'm the EVP and GM of Field Service. That is our product that gets all of our mobile field technicians out to the right customers at the right time with the right equipment. It's part of our service business. I was recently CPO of Sales Cloud, which is where you and I, Melissa, were working together, the flagship product for Salesforce. So I'm excited to talk about this topic. It's one that we talk about a lot here at Salesforce. And I think as women, we got to keep pushing the boundaries of what that means in this new way of working.
Yes, amazing. I cherished our time working together in Sales Cloud. It was a very bittersweet moment, but we're so excited to see you in this new role where you're just absolutely impressed as always. So, congratulations. Okay, so let's kick off on our topic. So, success from anywhere, what we call it here at Salesforce. But this new working model in this new working world, right, has introduced greater freedom over where we can work. I'm in my office, you're in your home office too, Tax. When and how we get to work too, which is quite different. And so we've really had
Wow.
to explore and adapt and learn really quickly, especially around creating fast connections and really keeping on top of our professional networks, both inside of where we work and externally. And doing that mostly through these boxes in front of us that we sit in all day in front of these computer screens. So I'd love to better understand from you, Tax, as a product leader, how have you really learned and tried to change how you cultivate opportunities to stay connected and strengthen relationships, not only with each other here at Salesforce, but also your broader network, your professional network?
Yeah, I will say that even before pandemic, we already at Salesforce, a good percentage of our workforce was already remote. So we already began this. We used to call this Ohana at home and an extension of our community at Salesforce, but they have been the ones really teaching us how to really embrace this. And if anything, the first thing I'd say is it's not as hard as we thought it would be, in that this allows us to connect with a lot more people. I actually see more people and have one-on-ones because you can go from conversation to conversation much faster. I'm, as you know, an Aussie. I lived in London, then New York, and now in California. So I've networks across the world, and now I don't have to wait to go see them. Obviously, I can build those relationships much quicker. We can hop on the phone, and so that part, of what the gift of working from home has given us is this equalizer that we can kind of meet people more regularly. So I'd say that is one piece, but it is harder because as we are in a Zoom, it's still very synchronous, and you're waiting for one person to talk at a time. There's less small talk in that same way, hallway talk in that we really love. And unless you consciously, which we have at Sales Cloud, created time for breakout rooms, created space at the start of a meeting to be able to have that dialogue, it's hard. I think actually a lot of people began with coffee chats, and we would meet and have coffee chats, but we were getting Zoom fatigue, and everyone was like, actually, this is more work. So we definitely did switch. I had a call with our Brett Taylor, our co-CEO, which was, just by phone again. And he has, it's a walking one-on-one. And, I see a lot actually in my neighborhood where people are doing walking one-on-ones. And it's so much easier. My team will know that I will occasionally take calls outside on my couch outside, just to get some sunshine and feel relaxed and sort of like switch modes a little bit. I think that's important. I also really started doing virtual lunches, which is nice, with different communities and groups, and just to be able to like have lunches with people that way. And so I wasn't just eating by myself at my desk. So that was really nice too. I do think that we have tools. We have more tools now to sort of engage, right? There's actually fun ways to break ice in new to new applications, donut, Kahoot games, etc. Really fun. We do use Slack at Salesforce, obviously, and so I'd say that I've actually been outreached quite more actively in Slack, where people have like pinged me, whether it's for a conversation or a quick huddle, etc., that allows a little bit more facilitation of that sort of ad hoc moment. And I think that's important. I think you do have to structurally a little bit more like consciously decide who you're going to meet with. If you don't know somebody, how can you go and sort of explore and meet them? And so that bridging of that network, I think, is different. There's more virtual events that before now, instead of trying to get to a meetup, you can attend that, but the follow-up doesn't feel as genuine, right? And that's, I think, the bridge that we all have to try to make is, how do I make that moment more genuine? How do I remember that relationship and follow up on LinkedIn, and then sort of connect afterwards, which I think is also part of the challenge. The other thing I would say, like, people are returning now. And Melissa, this is something that you spearheaded with us, which is like these connection days in Hub. And I'll let you talk about it, I think, because I think it's a great way. We're not just meeting for meetings anymore. We're sort of creating these spaces for people to come in and have conversation, and just to hang. And I know that the days that I go into the office now, I've got, we need to create more space so I'm not in meetings back to back, and so that I can facilitate those networks a little bit more actively.
Yeah, I
So,
love that. The fostering connection, I just wanted to share a story. One of the most recent calls I was with you on, we were trying to make a decision and it was very serious. And you were sitting, I think, in your yard or in your driveway, because you're like, I just have to get some air. And your son came up and he was like, I got Wordle in one try. And it was this moment of connection where, this new world we live in, it is in many minutes and hours a day in this box, but bringing through that person and that humanity, that empathy and understanding. Taksina is not just a woman in a computer screen. Our lives are much more rich and complex, and getting to see that is something we didn't get to see before. Connection days are going great. Thanks for the shout out. We're using Slack really effectively to just say like, hey, who's going to be in our office? So kind of like ad hoc, letting each other know, and then also selecting 1 or 2 days a month to have, this is a date where we're really going to focus on connecting with each other. It's a little bit of a struggle because we all want to keep the meetings going, but we're trying to really carve that time out to reconnect in person. And it's been really, really great. So really expanding on that, I'm really interested in reports that have come out over the last 2 years, really showcasing bright sides of remote work or hybrid work, but also showcasing the real dark spots and disparities, especially for women in professional industries. So, for instance, recent data showed that women are actually doing worse in a lot of key areas in this new kind of world. Examples are suffering higher rates of depression, being more vulnerable to economic effects of the pandemic. And these disparities really have the potential to become even worse, right? And even wider. So looking at that, Tax, what are some ways that Salesforce or other companies can help really even the scales and support working women even more in this new world? And what kind of tools and strategies have you personally used to really lean in and live your ideal work-life integration?
yeah, you know, It's not easy, and I think I'm glad that you raise it, in that there is a darker side to a lot of this, and we are feeling it. This is hard. It's been hard. It was already hard before pandemic. For everybody who has outside interests and balances. I mean, obviously, as parents with young children, as an example, it's definitely very difficult. Even more difficult, people who care for elderly, not having the support network. I think the burden has predominantly still, is still falling a lot more on women, to make decisions and to help homeschool. We've certainly seen a lot more women leave the workforce, or at least take a break right now, to just be home and be present to support in the kind of, climate that we're in. And we need to acknowledge that. I think that even if you people show up really well, they're exhausted, burnt out in the background. I think we all are. And I think that the burden for many women who think and go back to their second job, their third job, there are dads out there who like, I'm going to my second or third job, and that's like, I'm an Uber driver. I'm actually like shuffling all my kids somewhere. Like, we all have these other outside commitments that we have to live up to. And so I like the word that you used around work-life integration, because I think, especially for us in product, I think we're in some work scenarios and work jobs. They don't have the privilege that I think we have, and as people who build products, to have more flexibility. And I think that is, we can work predominantly from different places, and we don't have to be somewhere in that same way, as many jobs require. And so I think in the life of work-life integration, there's things companies can do, and there's what we can do as individuals. On some of the companies, I think that you have to come from a place of trust. Organizations need to lean in to be outcome-oriented, as opposed to the productivity, the hours, your butts in seats, you're from 9 to 5. You create and arm your tools for working from anywhere, so that people can work. They can connect from anywhere. It doesn't matter where they are, and there's no accountability for, you must be here by this date, sitting in this role. And I think that first comes from, do we trust our employees to do the work? We've hired the right person for the role. They'll get it done. Give them the space for how they will get it done. And I think that's the first piece that people have to really sort of lean into. The other is, I think, organizationally, there are ways to support, whether it is through childcare support, healthcare benefits, etc. Which I think in technology in general, we are quite fortunate, especially in the US. There's definitely a lot of benefits generally. Globally, I think there's already like really great healthcare, etc., which also helps, I think, to lighten that burden or that concern for what we all have to go through. But people are, because the world is harder to get to, they're not as close to their families in the way they used to be. They're protecting and guarding from their elderlies being nearby, etc. So I feel like people's support networks have really struggled. I've seen more and more benefit programs from organizations that include mental health, that include ad hoc child support, sick leave care. And these are they're all table stakes at this stage for organizations to really think deeply about how they're supporting, and then how are they helping the communities in which their organizations work in, right? So the local small business communities, it's the lunches, it's supporting events in that area as well. So even just the network of support, I think that we as organizations should do more of. It's something that we really pride ourselves at Salesforce about, which is really to lean in to the well-being of not just our employees, our customers, but the communities in which we are a part of. I think for individuals, and I think this is super important, this is a two-way street. We always want our companies to like provide us this flexibility. I'd say some companies believe that they provide that, but employees are also not taking advantage of it. And I will say this, that I know so many people who don't create boundaries for work. And that doesn't mean that you're not a good employee. What it means is that you know what your limitations are, and you know when you need to step away, right? Like I take time during the day to spend time with my kids or to volunteer at the school, or it's all just intertwined for me in a way. And I might work a weekend, but I might finish early on a Tuesday to go to help, do something at the school, as an example. I think those boundaries are super important. I do get dressed up to come into my office. It's one boundary that I have. And then once I'm out of my office, I do have the option to do that. I close the door, and I get back into my track pants and tights, etc., and comfy clothes. So mentally, for me, that's a little bit of like I switch zones. I do vacation, and when I take vacation, I switch off. And that's super important to me too. So I think boundaries in that sense are really important. If you trust your team, if you trust your colleagues, you set it up right so that you can step away and know when you can. What I did see, which was amazing, was seeing all those people in this pandemic lean in. Like if someone's got an issue, and everyone just lent in and was helpful. But that requires us to have systems and a work an element of trust together.
Yeah, I love that so much. And really, I was thinking while you were talking, a couple things. One, seeing leaders like yourself actually put those boundaries in action, those practices in action, I think is so important, to really let an organization know that that is okay to do, right? We're in a different world, different challenges, especially as women. And it really is so critical to see leaders walking the walk as well. I think also we use, or we've started to write and use working team agreements, which I think are so incredible here at Salesforce, really helping us all align around each other's working style and supporting each other in various ways as we navigate. So we have a couple minutes left. I wanted to go really quickly through the last question, which deserves more time, I'm sure. But so looking at success from anywhere, obviously the great part about that, coming off of kind of the not so great part, is really the ability to foster more equality, right? Especially in inclusive workplaces, building those out. And so how do you think these flexible work styles are actually really critical for inclusive work places, particularly for product organizations like yours?
Yeah, firstly, I think it goes without saying that the more diverse we are, we represent our end users, and the products that we build are more in service of the communities that really are using our products. So I think at that as a base primitive is like a no brainer, and we all should be there. I think that does come as a challenge if you think like if you're global or if you work in different environments, like how do you support that? How do you create a flex team agreement that gives you that? Like I'm only available in these hours. Like we have Tel Aviv teams and Indian teams. Like the nexus of hours that we have together is very limited, and so I think that is about like creating visibility of those timings. We use a V2 Mom, which is our way of like OKRs and goaling to align, and so you can be empowered to do your work. Trust that you do that work, but do them in your time, and so that sort of is our measurement and North Star for all of our teams. I do think the flex agreements tell us like how you want to engage. And for some people, like I like text over Slack, over email, over video, or actually I like you just picking up the phone. And that helps too in understanding. I've seen really great leaders in this hybrid world where you like now know how to really invite people into this conversation when you've got virtual attendees, like making sure that you hand raise and then they get in the conversation, calling on the people. Our job as leaders is like call on those people. So there's like so many ways to be allies, to create allies and bring them into the conversation. And I also think that we all have to think about career success from anywhere and bringing those people and making sure that you can get promoted and you can celebrate people's roles from anywhere. So just a
Yes.
few things.
Just a few. Well, our time is up. That went so quickly, and we could probably talk so much longer. Never get Melissa and Tax in a room to talk about this stuff unless you want to stay for a couple hours. But I wanted to extend my immense gratitude, Tax. You're always so inspiring to talk to and learn from. Hopefully, everyone who joined us for this session got some insights and learning as well. Thank you so much for joining us. And until we meet again, take care, work well in this new crazy world. And we hope you actually stop by to talk more about Salesforce at our booth if you'd like. So thanks again, Tax. This was wonderful.
Bye.